curious your thoughts on this, because I come from more of the basketball NBA side of things. And the way that the NBA approaches their content and copyright policies is if it doesn't directly conflict with live TV viewership, it benefits the league because more people will end up, becoming fans, buying merchandise, subscribing to the NBA's version of watching online on MLB, which is League Pass and things like that. Whereas other leagues feel as though if somebody is paying for it, why should we let you use it? That is what, in my opinion, crushes leagues on the social side, which then, doesn't allow younger fans to get in because there are no micro communities of pages and people posting highlights and getting new people in. Have you found and seen similar things?
It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. Two gold standards, in my opinion, are the NBA and I think MMA nails the storytelling so well.
Yeah.
To promote a fight, you have to have a story for the fight. Why are these guys fighting? Why do they dislike each other? Or do they respect each other? And it's a battle of the best of all time. Or like, what did this guy go through to like make him want to be a fighter? So they have these storylines that they develop these personalities in the sport, and they like really encourage those things to shine. And of course, it's an individual sport, and a lot more of that can happen. An individual can take over his marketing and like really build his story through the media, but the organization encourages that, they promote that, they facilitate that. Same thing in the NBA, like you're talking about. I use this example all the time. Steph Curry threw a bounce pass in the NBA All-Star game, either last year or the year before. 8 minutes afterwards, it was trending on Twitter. I mean, it was a bounce pass that like led to a dunk, but like Curry was trending for throwing the bounce pass because he did it creatively. And like 8 minutes later, it's got millions of views all over Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, now what? I'm scrolling through this thing, like, now what was so special about it? I'm like, it was cool, but like, there's been way cooler plays, even in the same game. Curry had built himself into obviously a super recognizable like figure and super popular figure, and then he did something cool, and it's everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, like these highlights are everywhere. Trout jumps in the air and robs a home run, and like it's hard to find that. You don't see it. Tim Anderson flips a bat, and like it's hard to find places. And it's gotten better the last couple of years, but the policy is so restrictive that players, technically, if you read the policy, players are not allowed to share videos of themselves if they're in a team uniform with a team logo without getting permission first.
Which is insane.
It's technically like, now do they enforce it? No, but it's technically in the policy. And so like theoretically I would go and have let's say I did something viral during a start, like I had my Cincinnati Buds like beer chug viral moment, right? It got shared everywhere. If I wanted to post it to amplify that, I would technically have to reach out to the team, who would have to reach out to the league to get permission for me to then share a picture of it, a video of it. I just go ahead and share those things anyway, but it's technically in the policy. So like you said, it kills those micro communities, and it kills opportunities for businesses to get going, create more interesting content that would promote the player, that would then promote the league. Like if we're going to have a video, like, Patreon's a thing, and like if people were going to pay us for like exclusive content, we would have to pay a license for any logo that any MLB logo that appeared in that video. If people were paying us for seeing that content, we have to pay for that. And the fee is like $10,000 per minute of footage, whether you use 1 second or 59 seconds of it. And it's just, it's so expensive that even if you're not, like, these aren't stories that the league is telling. No one's doing this. No one's, off the field with a guy wearing a Cincinnati hat because he's super proud to be a Red. Like, that's not a story that the league's telling. The league isn't selling that, but you still have to pay for that. Whereas, like, obviously, if you're rebroadcasting a game, I get it. But the NBA, like you're saying, it's like, tell the stories, grow the league,
Yeah.
So
no, that's it. And I think it's really interesting too, because you look at, you mentioned Steph, he just launched the Curry brand under Under Armour. There's no reason that a Mike Trout or a Trevor shouldn't have the same thing as Jordan. LeBron's going to eventually have it with Nike. There were stories about how he wanted to launch Team LeBron. That'll happen. Curry has his own brand.
Well, I think it makes sense with the large shoe companies, because basketball shoes can be worn by everybody, right? Because they're flat bottom shoes. So in baseball, the shoe companies shy away from doing that because not many people wear cleats. And the design on a cleat traditionally has not looked like a shoe.
Right.
So there's, you get creative and you build a brand around something else that's baseball culture. But if you're going to do that, you have to be able to promote baseball culture. And you have to be able
Yeah.
to promote the players. And there's the league's policies are restrictive enough that like it's stifled that for the past however many years. So we're very far behind. It stifles it from the top down, but also the culture in the clubhouse. If you're trying to promote yourself as a brand, you're looked at as selfish. You're not a team player. You're not focusing. The other way to do it is just to make cleats look like shoes and then sell the shoe version of the cleat. But the league's cleat policy has been restrictive enough that, like, for the longest time, and it's changed over the past 2 to 3 years, but the longest time you could only have 2 colors on your cleats. They had to be 50% black. And you couldn't have custom designs. You couldn't have custom wording. You couldn't have, anything like that. And I think now, as the league has opened that up and allowed for some of these custom shoes, like, I mean, I wore a bunch of them last year. They were super popular. People loved them. Like, they created a ton of buzz on social media. You're going to start seeing some of these opportunities where it's like, oh, okay, I had a really popular pair of cleats that I wore this year. I'm going to make those into shoes. People are, going to buy a couple of them, and it'll help start like the line moving. But yeah, it's just baseball's fallen so far behind in those creative marketing ways that really draw in the young fans and attach with the young people and the culture. NBA is great with music. They have popular music playing during the game. Now you get people, and they've identified with like the popular music. It's kind of a rap, pop, hip hop culture woven in seamlessly with the game. So now you have two markets. You have basketball fans and you have pop fans or rap fans, music fans, and that's everybody. It widens your market, and those are young people. Those are your future fan base for the next 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years.
So it's so true. But in terms of the product, and like having a Trevor Nike or whatever it is, the way I see it is they should have a whole product line of everything in baseball culture: your hats, your gloves, your batting gloves, your cleats, your street shoes, doing what you were talking about there. There's so many more products that you need in baseball, which would, obviously sneakers are sneakers. Everybody wears sneakers. Not everybody wears batting gloves, but since there are so many different things and there are so many fans, maybe it would make sense. But
no doubt. And the thing about those items that you mentioned is a lot of them they're pretty perishable. So you create one fan that needs batting gloves. He goes and plays for a season. He probably goes through his batting gloves in a season and needs them again next season. There's like 15. The average changes year to year, but there's on average there's like 15 million youth baseball players every single year, and then they need a new bat every, they grow, they need a new weight every 6 months to a year. They need new batting gloves. They wear out a glove. They need new shoes there because kids are growing, So it's not like a one-time thing where you have a one-time purchase and only 15 million player audience. Like, you have constantly renewing people, and they're constantly growing and needing new stuff. And there's so many different items. Basketball, you got shoes, you got a headband, and you got
maybe a headband.
Right. But I agree with that. There's so many products, and there's such a wide market for it. It's been relatively untapped.